6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Lal Malawarachi and read by J. Yogaraj. First, the headlines. The central bank governor says the IMF's disbursement of the extended fund facility to Sri Lanka can be expected by the end of this year. The Samagi Jana Balawege informs the president that the party is willing to support an all-party government. The government plans to provide a cash subsidy for kerosene to low-income families, fisheries and plantation sectors. The UNDP supports the Sri Lankan government to introduce electric three-wheelers and buses in the country. News overseas, Russian Security Service accuses Ukraine of Daria Dugina's murder. In sports, South Africa to host the ICC Women's T20 World Cup in February 2023. And those are the headlines. The central bank governor, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, says the International Monetary Fund's disbursement of the extended fund facility to Sri Lanka can be expected by the end of this year, subject to the success of debt restructuring with creditors and successful negotiations with the IMF. Speaking to foreign media, the governor also expressed his views on inflation in Sri Lanka, monetary policy and country's domestic debt. The governor said that the first part is to reach a staff-level agreement on the overall macro-fiscal policy framework for the next 3 to 4 years. The medium-term framework that is coming closer to reach an agreement on a macro-fiscal framework. The second part is to agree and negotiate with the debt targets for Sri Lanka to make the medium to long-term debt sustainable. The country is in the process of having this discussion, the governor added. Meanwhile, the IMF staff plans to visit Colombo from tomorrow to 31st to continue discussions with the Sri Lankan authorities on economic and financial reforms and policies. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa has reiterated that Samagi Jana Balawege party's commitment to supporting all progressive initiatives via the parliamentary committee system without accepting ministerial portfolios. He made these comments when he met President Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday. In a Twitter message, MP Premadasa said that the SJB engaged in a fortnight amicable discussion with President Ranil Wickremesinghe on the challenges faced by the country. He further said the party also re-emphasized its commitment to support all progressive initiatives via the parliamentary committee system. This news comes to you from Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara says the government has proposed to provide a direct cash subsidy to low-income families, fisheries and plantation sectors that depend on kerosene. The minister made this announcement after the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation increased the price of kerosene. The price of a litre of kerosene, which sold for 87 rupees, was increased by 253 rupees to 340 rupees. Minister Wijesekara says the kerosene price revision was a must, as it has not been revised for many years. He said selling petroleum products at subsidized prices is one of the main reasons for the losses incurred by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. The Ceylon Electricity Board says the repair work of the Nurechwale thermal power plant is now being carried out specially. The CEB hopes to connect the plant to the national grid soon. The power generation of 2 boilers were halted due to a maintenance work on the 15th of this month. Though the repair works commenced on the 20th, the temperature of some parts of the boiler is still high, the CEB says. The United Nations Development Programme supports the Sri Lankan government to introduce electric three-wheelers and buses in the country. The aim of this project is to reduce carbon emission and as a solution to the fuel crisis. A meeting in this regard was held between Minister Bandula Gunawardena and the representatives of UNDP today, or rather yesterday. Sri Lanka has more than 1.3 million three-wheelers. Under the pilot project, 300 three-wheelers will be converted and a mechanism will be implemented in this regard. And that's local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya.
Steps will be taken to fully open all the universities next month by the University Grants Commission. The universities that were completely closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic have not yet fully reopened. In some universities, academic studies are conducted through the online system. Thus, after more than 2 years, the university system will be fully operative from September, and physical lectures in universities will be conducted. Meanwhile, studies in some universities are conducted without the full student capacity as per the COVID-19 regulations issued by the Health Ministry. And that was top news.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
A Strength to Your Life. CIB Janajaya Vasana has commenced. Valuable gifts and all bills are on 31st of October. Come to CIB today.
The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka has granted approval to impose 3-hour power cuts today. Accordingly, groups A to L and P to W will face a 1 hour and 40-minute power cut during the day and a 1 hour and 20-minute power cut in night. Meanwhile, the Colombo City commercial zones will experience a 2 hour and 30-minute power cut from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. While industrial zones will experience a 3-hour power cut from 5:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. And that's Watchlight.
A Strength to Your Life. CIB Janajaya Vasana has commenced. Valuable gifts and all bills are on 31st of October. Come to CIB today.
Moving on to world news, the headlines. Russian Security Service accuses Ukraine of Daria Dugina's murder. Iconic Shanghai sites to go dark as drought hits power supply. Indian farmers move a 2-story home an inch at a time. And those are the headlines of the world news. Russia has blamed Ukrainian special services for the murder of Daria Dugina, a Russian political commentator and the daughter of the prominent commentator Alexander Dugin, according to Russian state news agency TASS. The murder of journalist Daria Dugina has been solved. It was prepared by the Ukrainian Special Services by a citizen of Ukraine, TASS reported, citing Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, which named a woman as the perpetrator and said she had fled to Estonia after the attack. Ukraine has denied any involvement in the Dugina's killing, calling the FSB claims fiction. An iconic skyline in the Chinese city of Shanghai called the Bund will not be lit for 2 nights to save power, officials say. The waterfront area, known for its mix of historical buildings in a popular tourist destination, is fair in China. Major manufacturers in the Sichuan province told the BBC they had been hit by power cuts. Large parts of the world's second largest economy face a severe drought amid a record-breaking heat wave. A farmer in the northern Indian state of Punjab is getting his house moved 500 feet away from its original spot because it's in the way of an expressway. The expressway connects the national capital Delhi with the Jammu and Kashmir region 420 miles away. Shukwinder Singh spent around 15 million rupees to build this house in 2019. He was offered compensation, but he did not want to build another house. And that's the end of the world news. Moving on to development news, Transport Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena visited Jaffna to look into the problems of the public transport service that there and travel by train from Jaffna to Kankesenture and also engaged in the observation of the railway line. The minister stated that the section of the Northern Railway from Mahava to Vavuniya will be modernized in a short period, and the time taken for an intercity train to reach from Colombo to Jaffna will be reduced by about an hour. And that was development news.
Sports news is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Cape Town, Paarl and Port Elizabeth have been named the hosts of ICC Women's T20 World Cup in February 2023. Cricket South Africa also announced that the Women's Under-19 T20 World Cup would be hosted in Benoni and Port Festrom. The T20 World Cup will be a 10-team event. South Africa have qualified as a host, while Australia, England, India, New Zealand, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and West Indies will also take part in this event. And that was sports news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Sri Lanka shares gained over 1% within the first hour of trade on Monday, the 22nd, pushed by index-heavy shares, the Colombo Stock Exchange data showed. The main all-share price index moved up 114.66 points or 1.28% to 9,090.41 at 1,100 in the afternoon yesterday. Market generated a turnover of 1.9 billion rupees yesterday. And that was business news.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
In economic news, the Department of Census and Statistics, DSC, has released the National Consumer Price Index, NCPI, and the inflation rate for the month of July 2022. The overall rate of inflation, as measured by the NCPI on a year-on-year basis for the month of July 2022, has been reported as 66.7% according to the department. The NCPI for all items for the month of July 2022 is 244.4, and it records an increase of 12.9 in index points compared to June 2022. And that was economic news. Finally, in the weather report, the Met Department says showers will occur at times in the western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in Kurunegala, Kandy and Nuwara districts. Fairly heavy rainfalls, above 50 millimeters, can be expected at some places in the Sabaragamuwa province and in Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts. Showers or thundershowers will occur at few places in the Uva province and in Ampara, Batiklo and Trincomalee districts during the evening or night. Strong winds about 50 kilometers per hour can be expected at times over the western slopes of the Central Hills, the northern and north central provinces and in Hambantota and Trincomalee districts. And that was weather report. To wind up this news broadcast, let's look at the main points once again. The central bank governor says IMF's disbursement of the extended fund facility to Sri Lanka can be expected by the end of this year. The Samagdi Jana Balawege informs the president that the party is willing to support an all-party government. Government says our government plans to provide a cash subsidy for kerosene to low-income families, fisheries and plantation sectors. The UNDP supports the Sri Lankan government to introduce electric three-wheelers and buses in the country. And with that, we conclude this morning news broadcast of Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.